It is very similar to the way a pearl is formed inside an oyster, silently, unseen, and under pressure. No one notices what is happening, but deep down, in the midst of difficulties, something precious is being formed where no one can see it. Write 777 in the comments. Now don't just be a spectator, be part of the story. With your support, we will become a huge family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and join us. Because sometimes, the most hidden periods of our lives can lead to such a revelation that it astonishes even the closest observers. It's a lot like planting a seed deep in the ground. A seed so small and overlooked, the world forgets it's even there. But just because it's hidden beneath the soil, just because nobody's standing around clapping or cheering it on, doesn't mean something mighty isn't happening beneath the surface. Sometimes, the darkest seasons in life are simply the planting grounds for a harvest so big, it will surprise even those who thought they knew you best. You know, life has a way of pressing down on us, piling on pressures we never asked for, weighing our hearts with burdens that seem invisible to everyone else. But here's the truth, just like that little seed, you were made for more than what's visible right now. When every direction you look seems to offer nothing but closed doors, when friends who once stood by you become distant memories, when the familiar voices you counted on are suddenly silent, there's a power, a quiet strength, that wakes up inside you. It's not born out of applause. No, it's born out of the stillness, the moments when nobody's watching but God. That's when character is forged and destiny begins to whisper. Sometimes, the people around you will see the chapter closing on your life. They'll think the story's over, that the final page has been written. They might say you've missed your moment, that you're too old, too forgotten, too far gone for a turnaround. But I came to tell you, God hasn't finished his story with you yet. In fact, while the world was busy writing your ending, heaven was starting a brand new chapter. It's funny how setbacks and disappointments are misread. Folks see them as signs you ought to quit, that maybe you made a mistake, maybe you missed your window. But child of God, those very setbacks are working for you, not against you. Like the farmer's compost, all the mess, all the disappointment, all the heartache, God is using it to fertilize the soil of your spirit. Every tear you've cried, every lonely night you've endured, every sigh you've heaved in secret, none of it's wasted. It's all feeding a stubborn determination deep down in your soul, a resolve that refuses to be snuffed out. You see, what looks like resignation to the outside world is actually a brand new resolve stretching up toward the light. Even in the middle of darkness, hope starts to rise. Some people are content to live in the shadows, to accept what life hands them and settle for less. But not you. You've got something different working on the inside. You've got a spirit that refuses to let loss define you, a will that keeps reaching for dawn even when the night feels endless. That's why you're not finished. You're not broken beyond repair. No matter how many times you've fallen, no matter how many folks have walked away, God's not through with you yet. In fact, it's in these hidden seasons, when nobody else sees the fight, when nobody's cheering you on, that your roots grow the deepest. It's in the quiet, overlooked spaces that the real work gets done, the kind of work that can't be undone by storms or shaken by trouble. Think about it. Nobody celebrates the seed while it's underground. There's no applause for the roots when they're tangled in the dirt, stretching toward the water, fighting for every drop. Yet, without those roots, the harvest would never come. You might feel buried right now, but in truth, you've been planted. There's a difference. Being buried means it's over, but being planted means you're coming back stronger, fuller, and more fruitful than before. And let me tell you, there's nothing ordinary about what God's doing in the dark. When others have counted you out, when they've shut the door and walked away, heaven is still writing. The author of your faith is busy crafting a comeback nobody saw coming. You may be overlooked by men, but you're handpicked by God. Now, it's real easy to feel invisible when life gets quiet. You're not getting the calls you used to, the invitations dry up, the old support system disappears. But listen, being hidden doesn't mean you're forgotten. It means you're being prepared. God sometimes puts his greatest treasures in places nobody's looking. He does his best work out of sight, shaping destinies in the dark, forging faith in the furnace of waiting. I know what it's like to look around and wonder if anyone even notices what you're carrying. You try to stay positive, but sometimes the nights feel long and the prayers seem to go unanswered. You wonder, is all this really leading somewhere, or have I missed it? But I want to tell you today, you haven't missed anything. What looks like delay is actually divine timing. The story isn't over just because the chapter feels silent. The best stories have their turning point right when it seems the least likely. Think you've heard it all? Subscribe and let the Bible surprise you. That's what sets you apart. You've got a faith that won't quit, a hope that keeps pushing through the pain. You may be tired, you may be discouraged, but you're still standing. You're still waking up, still trying, still believing for a better tomorrow. That's a miracle all by itself. Some folks give up after the first sign of trouble, but not you. You dig in. You keep moving. You press through the fog and refuse to call it quits. Let me encourage you, every closed door is just a new path opening up. Every no you've heard is God protecting you from something you can't even see yet. People may have shut you out, but they can't stop what God has started. The world may call it an ending, but in heaven's vocabulary, it's just the beginning. You were never meant to fit in with the crowd. You were made to stand out, to rise up, to shine when the world least expects it. Sometimes, God allows the crowd to walk away so you can discover you never needed their approval to begin with. He lets certain relationships fade so you can see He's always been enough. When the cheers die down and the applause fades, you find out that your real identity isn't tied to who celebrates you but to who called you. God's stamp is on your life, and no amount of rejection or neglect can erase that. So don't despise the quiet seasons. Don't curse the darkness. That's where diamonds are formed, where warriors are trained, where chosen ones are born. When nobody's watching, God is still working. He's shaping your character, sharpening your discernment, and preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. You might feel alone, but you're never abandoned. The presence that walked with you through the valley is the same presence that'll walk you into victory. He's with you in the waiting, in the weeping, in the wrestling. And let me tell you, what He starts, He always finishes. The night may last longer than you'd like, but morning always comes. Sometimes it takes losing what you thought you needed to discover what you really have. When the music stops, when the lights go out, that's when your soul starts to sing a new song. It's not a song of defeat, but a melody of hope, a tune that rises up from the ashes of broken dreams. And let me say this, the ashes are not your ending, they're the soil of your new beginning. You may not see the breakthrough yet, but that doesn't mean it isn't coming. Faith isn't just believing when things are going well, it's holding on when everything says let go. It's trusting when you have no evidence, loving when your heart's been hurt, dreaming when your hope's been bruised. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains. That's the kind of faith that changes legacies. I know it's tempting to measure your life by the applause of the crowd, by the approval of people who come and go. But real worth isn't found in what others think, it's found in what God declares over you. He calls you beloved, chosen, set apart. He calls you blessed in the city and blessed in the field. No matter where you are, no matter what you've lost, nothing can change what He's already spoken. If you only knew what was being prepared behind the scenes, you'd walk with a confidence the world can't touch. You'd lift your head high even on the hardest days, knowing you're being shaped for something eternal. This isn't the end, it's the turning point. The pressure isn't to break you, but to reveal the treasure that's always been inside. Hold on, chosen one. Your story is far from finished. You're not defined by what you've lost, but by what you're about to gain. This is the season when hidden things come to light, when buried seeds burst through the ground, when the overlooked become the overcomers. The pain was real, but so is the promise. The silence was long, but so is the song of your coming celebration. When you least expect it, favor will find you. Restoration will show up on your doorstep. Joy will return like an old friend, and hope will flood your heart in ways you've never known. Every tear you cried in the darkness is watering the ground for your next harvest. Every sigh you breathed alone is a prayer God heard and treasured. Don't settle for less than what you were created for. Don't accept defeat as your portion. You were born for victory, marked for greatness, set apart for such a time as this. What looks like the end is only the beginning of a story that will inspire many. So keep rising. Keep reaching. Keep believing. The best is still ahead, and nothing in your past can hold you back from the future God has planned for you. The soil may be dark, but the seed is alive. The world may forget, but God remembers. And what's been planted in faith will one day stand as a testimony for all to see. You ever watch the sunrise break through after a long, stormy night? For hours, it feels like the darkness has won, the thunder has had the final say, and the winds will never let up. But all the while, out of sight, the earth keeps quietly turning, and before you know it, the first light comes stretching across the horizon, proof that the sun never stopped working, even when you couldn't see it. That's the way God works in your life, chosen one. Sometimes, the deepest shifts are happening out of sight, far beneath the noise of discouragement or the opinions of those on the sidelines. What you feel stirring deep in your spirit isn't just you trying to hang on by a thread. It's the early warning of destiny gathering its strength. Other people might look at you in this season and see someone fading away, someone who lost their spark or missed their chance. But God sees something altogether different. He sees someone quietly gearing up for a new chapter, putting on spiritual armor in the quiet while nobody's paying attention. You see, what folks mistake for you giving up is really just God pulling you aside for a moment so He can do some of His best work in private. Don't be surprised if your quiet confuses people. Sometimes, when you pull back, when you stop defending yourself, when you just rest in God's presence, the crowd thinks you've thrown in the towel. But what they don't see is what's happening beneath the surface. The truth is, you're not vanishing, you're being prepared. The world calls it a retreat, but heaven calls it a setup for a comeback. All that's going on isn't to finish you off, it's to launch you forward in ways you never dreamed. I want you to think about the way builders lay a foundation for a new house. You drive by and see nothing but a muddy pit for weeks. It doesn't look like progress, it looks like a mess. Folks might laugh, shake their heads, and wonder why nothing is happening. But the real work is going on out of sight, deep underground, where the foundation is being poured. That's the season you're in. There's a foundation being poured for what's next, and it's going to support something greater than anything you've ever carried before. People who only watch from the surface level can't see the preparation happening inside of you. They hear your silence and assume it's the end. They see you pulling back and assume you're done. But let them laugh for a while. Let them believe what they want. The very things they're mocking are the signs God is about to do something big. Their laughter is just background noise. It can't reach the deep work happening in your soul, the kind of growth that can't be measured by what's visible. There's a kind of transformation that can only happen in seasons when you feel cut off, set aside, or misunderstood. It's in the lonely places, the times of exile, when you think you've been forgotten, that God draws closest and starts shaping you for what's coming. He does His best work when no one else is watching, when nobody's around to distract you or get the credit. That's when God builds the kind of faith, strength, and wisdom that will last when you step into the light. Maybe you feel like your whole life's been upended. Things you once depended on are now gone. Relationships have changed, the old routines don't fit, and it's like the rug's been pulled out from under you. Friend, you're not being punished, you're being positioned. What feels like exile is just God clearing out the noise so you can hear His voice clearer than ever. He's rearranging things behind the scenes. He's gathering resources, lining up connections, bringing the right people into your path at just the right time. It may feel chaotic on the outside, but on the inside, a new order is coming together. Sometimes God will allow the ground to shake, not to break you, but to move you into place for your next blessing. There's a shifting going on that others can't see. They think you're losing, but in reality, you're being moved right into the center of God's plan. You're being shaped for something only you can carry. What you see as isolation, heaven calls incubation. You're in a season where the seeds of greatness are being watered, tended, and prepared for a harvest that will surprise everyone, including you. And yes, it's hard when folks misunderstand. They might make up stories, whisper behind your back, or even celebrate what they think is your downfall. But hear me, you don't owe anyone an explanation for your journey. You don't have to justify the quiet seasons, the pauses, the times when you step back to heal and grow. That's between you and God. The people who count you out now will one day be witnesses to your resurrection, your restoration, your divine promotion. You're not alone in this. The Bible is full of stories where God took his people through hidden seasons before revealing them to the world. Think about Moses on the backside of the desert, David running for his life, Joseph in the pit and the prison. Each of them faced moments where it seemed like their story was over. But God was using that time to prepare them for greater influence and responsibility. Legends, miracles, prophecies. Subscribe to see what history forgot. Your silence is not the silence of defeat, but the quiet before a miracle. The world celebrates loud beginnings, but God specializes in powerful comebacks. The world applauds quick results, but God develops strong roots in the unseen places. The applause may not be there right now, but the preparation is happening all the same. You are being readied for more than just a return. You're being readied for a transformation. And let's be honest, there are seasons when it feels like God himself has stepped back, like the heavens are silent, prayers go unanswered, and nothing makes sense. But those are the times when faith grows strongest. When you can't trace God's hand, you can trust his heart. He's working even when you can't see it. He's building something inside you that will last longer than any applause or earthly reward. Sometimes God has to remove the crutches we leaned on, old habits, old friendships, old ways of thinking, so we'll lean fully on him. It's not a punishment, it's a promotion in disguise. The things you're letting go of are making space for something better. The foundation being laid in secret is going to hold up a blessing so big, you'll look back and thank God for every lonely night, every misunderstood moment, every time you thought you'd lost your way. Let the world have its opinions. Let the critics talk. You just keep walking with God, one step at a time. He knows the plans he has for you. Plans for good, not for harm, to give you a future and a hope. The laughter of doubters fades fast, but the testimony of a transformed life endures forever. As you stand in this in-between season, take heart. Don't despise the preparation. Don't rush the process. What's forming inside of you now is stronger than anything that's come against you. You may feel hidden, but you are not forsaken. You may feel misunderstood, but you are not mistaken. God's hand is on your life, and he's preparing you for a new level, a greater calling, a wider influence. So if you find yourself in a quiet place, if it feels like everyone's moved on and you're still waiting, don't give up hope. Don't let discouragement settle in. Keep believing. Keep listening for that gentle nudge, that whisper of purpose that reminds you, you're not finished, you're not disqualified, you're not forgotten. You are being prepared for such a time as this. The world may not see it yet, but your story is just getting started. The foundation is being laid, the structure is rising, and soon what's been built in secret will be revealed for all to see. Your best days are still ahead. The light is coming, and with it, a fresh start that only God could orchestrate. Stay patient. Stay expectant. The morning always comes for those who hold on through the night. And when it does, you'll realize every hidden season, every misunderstood moment, every quiet place was shaping you for a destiny bigger than you ever dreamed. You know, facing life's challenges is a lot like sailing on a river after a storm. Sometimes, the current gets so strong it feels like it's trying to sweep your little boat right off course. From the outside, people might only see the wind blowing, the water rising, and assume it's just bad weather. But what they don't see is that there's something deeper at play, something spiritual, something ancient, that's trying to steer you away from your destination. The real test isn't about dodging every wave. It's about learning to anchor yourself so you can hold steady when everything else tries to move you. See, all the obstacles you've had to push through, all the words spoken against you, the sideways glances, the cold shoulders, the times you felt misunderstood or left out, none of that is just about the people involved. It's not simply folks acting out of jealousy or small-mindedness, and it's definitely not a series of random events. No, there's a bigger picture here, a real battle going on in the unseen places. Sometimes the fight you're facing is much older than the faces around you. It's not about this week or this year, but about a destiny that's been marked on your life long before anybody could try to stop it. People might say you're being too sensitive, or that you just need thicker skin, but what they don't realize is that there's a calling on your life that draws a different kind of resistance. When you're chosen, when God has set you apart, you're going to feel pressure that others don't. It's like you're carrying a torch in a dark world. And there are forces that would rather see that flame snuffed out than let it shine. That's why things sometimes feel so personal, so relentless, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. But here's the good news. Every time someone tried to put out your fire, God used that wind to make your flame burn brighter. Every time you were pushed to the edge, every time they whispered your name with doubt or tried to box you in, it only made your faith dig deeper roots. See, the enemy wants to wear you out, to make you question if it's worth it, but God is using the resistance to build spiritual muscle. Where others would have given up, you've been learning how to stand still, how to listen for God's voice in the chaos, how to keep moving even when the path isn't clear. Sometimes, the struggle isn't meant to break you, it's meant to sharpen you. Think of it like a diamond. Do you know how a diamond is made? It takes heat and pressure deep underground, far away from the eyes of the world. If you crack open a rock before its time, all you'll find is coal. But given enough pressure, enough time, what comes out is something valuable, unbreakable, something that shines even in the darkest places. That's what God is doing in you through every hard season. And you know what else? Every attempt to limit you, every door that closed, every time you were told you couldn't do it, all of that has only made you clearer about your vision. It's easy to get bitter when people treat you unfairly. It's easy to want to get even, to wish you could make them understand. But you, chosen one, you've taken the high road. You've turned inward and found patience when others grew angry. You've learned how to let go, to forgive, to move forward with grace. That's no small thing. That's a sign of true strength. There's a quiet stamina in you that outlasts all the noise. You may not always feel it, but trust me, it's there. It's what kept you going when you could have quit. It's what keeps you loving when your love isn't returned, believing when you have no evidence, and rising up when life tries to keep you down. Some folks measure victory by headlines or applause, but your victory is being written in the silent places. One step, one day, one faithful choice at a time. And listen, God sees every bit of it. He sees the long nights, the silent tears, the times you chose kindness instead of revenge, the moments you stayed when it would have been easier to walk away. Every time you forgave, every time you blessed your enemy, every time you stayed true to what's right when it would have been easy to compromise, that's being recorded in the heavenlies. It matters. It's building a testimony that nothing can erase. Don't let what's on the surface distract you from what's happening underneath. The currents in your life aren't just shifting for no reason. God is working out things that will bless not just you, but everyone connected to your story. Maybe you can't see it yet, maybe you're still in the middle of it, but one day you'll look back and realize that the storms didn't come to drown you. They came to reveal just how unsinkable you really are. If you've ever wondered why the battle has been so intense, it's because what's inside of you is worth fighting for. The calling on your life is too precious to go unchallenged. The dreams God put in your heart are too important to be left unguarded. Sometimes, it takes a fight to make us realize how much we've been entrusted with. Sometimes, the opposition shows up to remind us just how valuable we really are. So don't be discouraged if the fight seems long or unfair. Don't let the words of people who don't know your story shape your confidence. Keep your eyes on what God has promised you. Remember, your worth isn't decided by your critics or your circumstances. It's decided by the one who called you, who set you apart, who's been with you in every valley and on every mountaintop. If you hold on, you'll see that every struggle has been shaping you for the promise. Every challenge is making you wiser, every disappointment is making you stronger. You're being prepared for something you couldn't carry before. The patience you're learning now is going to serve you in ways you can't imagine. The clarity you're gaining is the foundation for the future God has in mind. You may feel pressed on every side, but you're not crushed. You may be perplexed, but you're not in despair. You might feel persecuted, but you're not abandoned. That's because there's a greater hand at work in your life, one that doesn't let go, even when the world turns its back. Let your faith rise up. Choose peace in the storm. Stand firm in who you are and whose you are. Don't let bitterness take root. Don't let resentment poison your heart. There's more ahead for you than what's behind. The storm isn't your story, the victory is. God's not done. He's just getting started. The world may see the waves, but God sees the anchor. And when the waters calm, you'll find yourself further along than you ever thought possible, stronger and brighter and more resilient than you were before. Picture a potter at the wheel, working with a lump of clay. With every press of the hand, every turn, the clay is shaped, smoothed, and sometimes even pressed a little harder than seems fair. The clay doesn't understand why it's being pushed, why it's spinning so fast, or why it's being stretched so thin. But in the end, it's those very pressures that form a beautiful vessel, something strong, unique, and fit for a purpose the clay could never have imagined. That's the way God uses even the hardest parts of our lives, chosen one. What others meant as ruin, He uses to mold you for greatness. See, every accusation that's come against you, every whisper in the dark, every betrayal that left you feeling alone, none of it was wasted. To the outside world, it might look like a record of hurts, a list of things you've had to survive. But in the hands of the master potter, each moment is a lesson, each cut is a chapter in the story of your resilience. The pain you endured didn't just leave scars, it left a roadmap of how far you've come and how deep your strength runs. There's a lesson hidden in every disappointment. There's wisdom tucked into every letdown. I know it doesn't feel that way when you're walking through it. When friends turn their backs, when those you trusted speak against you, it's easy to wonder if your heart will ever be whole again. But here's the miracle. What was meant to break you, God uses to build you. Those slights, those rumors, those broken promises, they didn't erode your core. They revealed it. Every time someone tried to chip away at your confidence, they actually uncovered a new layer of grit inside you. The truth is, you're being fortified, not fractured. You're not just surviving the storm, you're learning how to dance in the rain. God's been inscribing something on your soul, something that can't be erased by gossip or destroyed by betrayal. You're learning what it means to stand tall even when your support system falls apart. That's a lesson you couldn't get in the sunshine. It's forged in the shadows, in the places where hope feels like a distant memory. Sometimes, the people who try to tear you down are the very ones God uses to lift you higher. It sounds crazy, I know, but think about it. If everyone always agreed with you, always celebrated you, you'd never learn how strong your foundation truly is. When your character is under attack, when your motives are misunderstood, you discover where your worth really comes from. Not from their approval, but from the one who never changes, never betrays, never walks away. You know, it's the tree that faces the harshest winds that develops the deepest roots. The storms don't destroy it, they anchor it. Every hurtful word, every broken promise, is like wind against your branches. And instead of blowing you over, it's pushing your roots deeper into God's love, into the soil of your true identity. That's why you're still standing, chosen one. That's why you're stronger than you realize. And I want to tell you this, even those who tried to block your way, even those who tried to sow doubt in your heart, ended up serving your destiny. Unknowingly, they became part of the plan to grow your endurance, to deepen your faith. Their negativity didn't derail you, it drove you closer to the purpose planted inside you. Every attack was just another chisel in the sculptor's hand, shaping you into someone who can't be shaken. Don't despise the season of misunderstanding. Don't curse the days when you felt alone. God was using them to reveal to you, and to the world, that you are not defined by the voices around you, but by the unshakable spirit within you. The enemy may have meant it for evil, but God is working it all together for good. Every insult, every betrayal, is being woven into the testimony you'll carry into your next season. You're learning that real support doesn't always come from the crowd, but from the presence of God who never leaves you, never forsakes you. When people fail you, God fills you. When they forget you, He remembers you. When they walk away, He walks in closer. The loneliness you felt was never wasted. It was space for God to meet you, to remind you that you're never truly alone. And don't miss this, your endurance is not just for you. There are people watching, people who need to see what hope looks like under pressure. Your story is becoming a lifeline for someone else. Your strength in adversity is lighting a path for those coming after you. That's why your battles matter. They're not just about you, but about the legacy you're leaving. You are being shaped, chosen one, for something beautiful. The vessel is nearly ready. And when it's time to step into the light, the world won't just see what you've been through, they'll see the masterpiece God's been making out of every hard thing you've survived. The story isn't about the wounds, it's about the wisdom, the grace, and the glory that's coming next. In the aftermath of such conflict, justice emerges not as a demand shouted into the wind but as a current reshaping everything it touches. Retribution is not the desired outcome. What matters is the restoration of balance so thorough that the landscape of your life is transformed beyond the calculations of those who kept score. The same trials intended to silence you become the birthplace of a new eloquence, a clarity of purpose that reshapes not just your path but the perceptions of everyone who thought they understood the rules. What remains when the dust settles is not the echo of survival but the birth of authority. Enduring storms in silence, drawing breath when it felt like resistance, all serve as rehearsals for the kind of command that moves unseen boundaries and breaks invisible chains. The patterns learned in difficulty are not just reactions to adversity but the blueprints for future influence, developed not in palaces but in the silent dark. Those times of separation, which might have looked like punishment to outsiders, were in fact the incubators of capability. While critics celebrated a presumed defeat, unseen lessons were absorbed: how to remain clear-headed when chaos reigns, how to keep the heart open when the world responds with cold indifference, how to speak with integrity when truth is unpopular, how to keep loving when the only affection offered is conditional. These experiences were not random misfortunes. They were the curriculum for a calling greater than comfort. Every moment spent weeping alone was not a sign of collapse but the body's way of washing off beliefs that would only weigh down what comes next. The private prayers uttered through brokenness, far from vanishing into emptiness, became evidence of readiness for a turn of events so unexpected that it would unsettle all who had drawn conclusions about your fate. Sleepless nights, misread as punishment, were instead opportunities for the mind to receive insights impossible to access by daylight. Ideas that will shape destinies, solutions ahead of their time, wisdom destined for those with ears to hear. If you love a good mystery, subscribe for the untold truths of Scripture. The disturbing dreams that played out were not omens of failure but previews of territories and victories yet to be claimed. The very timing of your return is orchestrated with a precision beyond ordinary comprehension. Every detour, every delay, was not a hindrance but a necessary pause ensuring the most significant witnesses are present for what is to come. Opportunities that were once withheld are now redirected with intention. Every no, every closed door, was a careful guidance away from the familiar towards something truly unprecedented. The changes unfolding are not simply improvements or upgrades, but total redefinitions of what is possible, making the journey from obscurity to arrival so pronounced that few will recognize the one who enters the new chapter. The restoration arriving is not a simple recompense. It is a multiplication that transforms past wounds into future assets. The abundance gathering is beyond what could be counted by conventional means, revealing the scope of investment made for your resurgence. Connections and invitations are aligning from directions not yet revealed, carrying with them the promise of partnerships and opportunities that once seemed far-fetched.